We've got another beautiful song by Steve and Angie called Christ Be All Around Me. So give a big hand for Steve and Angie.
We just want to say thank you, and it's just been a lot of blessing and fun to be here. We've had just a enjoyable time. We've been able to do some of my wife's songs. We're going to do a couple other songs today. Perhaps some of you are familiar with the group Leland. This song is by them, so we're going to try to do that one for you.
As I rise, strength of God, go before, lift me up. As I wake, eyes of God, look upon, be my sight. As I wait, heart of God, satisfy and sustain. As I hear voice of God, lead me on, be my guide, be my guide, above and below me, before and behind me, in every eye that sees me. Christ be all around me, above and below me, before and behind me, in every eye that sees me. Christ be all around me, yeah. As I go, hand of God, my defense by my side. As I rest, breath of God, fall upon, bring me peace, bring me peace, above and below me, before and behind me, in every eye that sees me. Christ be all around me, above and below me, before and behind me, in every eye that sees me. Christ be all around me, yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Christ be all around me, yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Christ be all around me, yeah. Your life, your death, your blood was shed for every moment, every moment. Your life, your death, your blood was shed for every moment, every moment. Your life, your death, your blood was shed for every moment, every moment. Above and below me, before and behind me, in every eye that sees me. Christ be all around me, above and below me, before and behind me, in every eye that sees me. Christ be all around me, above and below me, before and behind me, in every eye that sees me. Christ be all around me, above and below me, before and behind me, in every eye that sees me. Christ be all around me, yeah.
I once was lost, and now I'm found. I was blind, and now I see. Every one of us has the one who brought them to know Christ. Our next speaker, DiAnne Karras, is the one who brought me to know Christ. Approximately 35 years ago, DiAnne walked into my workspace, and that started a love relationship. And that relationship, I saw DiAnne walk with the love of Christ like we would all want to be. And today, and continues to walk with the love of Christ. The crazy thoughts I had about life and where I was going and how I was searching. And through it all, she never once condemned me, but always shared the love of God and the truth of the Word. To have her here is pretty awesome. And I cannot say enough about the example that she set for me in my walk. She loved me through it all. And I can honestly tell you that I not only would not be here, I probably wouldn't be if it had not been for her. So please welcome DiAnne Karras.
Yeah, well, she didn't tell you the rest of the story. So we're going to look to buy a house, right? And we find this very modest house, well within our means. But the sellers were asking more than the bank thought it was worth. And they said, we're sorry, we are not going to give you a mortgage on this house. And I lost my peace, and she reproved me. And I'm like, what is this all about? This girl is reproving me? You better get your stuff together, girl. That's what I said to myself. So how could I not but follow the one who reproved me? I know too much about fishing. I'm just going to tell you. I know too much about raising fish, catching fish, feeding fish, cleaning fish, and cooking fish. And the one thing I know, with some kind of fish, you need a hook. Ed, what's my hook today?
40 years in this year.
40 years ago, I'm working in Manhattan. I am making a boatload of money, and I am looking for a housekeeper because I have a, I don't know, 8-year-old boy, and I'm busy. I'm an executive for ABC. I'm doing big serious stuff, and I need a housekeeper. And I put an ad in the New York Times, and this chick answers the ad, and I look at her. She's Palestinian. She is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. She's an equity actress on Broadway, and she wants to clean my co-op on the Upper West Side. I said, who are you really? She says, well, I'm an actress. I'm in between gigs, and I teach biblical research. And I said, what? I know the word Bible. I know the word research, but how does that go together? And I was living with my Jewish boyfriend, and I'd been studying Judaism for 5 years. Baruch atah Adonai elok me'olam ha'olam. I knew how to do Shabbat. I can say the prayers. I can light the candles. I can have people to my house for dinner every Friday night. There was a party. I lived in Manhattan, and if you live in Manhattan, you got to be successful and you got to be good at what you do because it's really expensive to live there. I had a party of celebrities at my house every Friday night, and we did the Baruch Atah on ice. But I will tell you what we did. We fellowshipped. So I invite Gloria Zaglul Olivier to my house for Friday night. And I said, girl, we got to talk. I need to know about this Bible thing. When my son was born, I knew that I had to find some answers. The Catholic Church gave me a great grounding in stained glass and incense. It gave me a great grounding, and it was quiet. Nobody yelled at me or beat me. And that's not an exaggeration. And I went to Catholic grade school, high school, and college, but it did not satisfy my longing. I needed something more. And when my son was born, I knew, girl, you got a time. This boy's going to ask you questions, and you're going to have answers, and you better be convinced. You don't have to be right, but you better be convinced of what you tell him, because this is serious stuff, this life stuff. I had grown up in a foster home in New York City, and I knew two things. Are you kind and are you safe? And my first job, you don't get paid for every job. You have your workplaces where you do something of service to somebody else. And my job at 3 years old was to keep the other little new girl who came on board safe. And I was 3. So I'm saying to myself, girl, you got to find the truth, because he's going to ask you the big questions. Who's God? Who's Jesus Christ? Why do you die? What happens when you die? What is this thing about? And I was on a mission, and Judaism was great. I spent 5 years in the Old Testament. It was wonderful. But I think I taught the rabbi how to pray. I could be wrong, but I think he said that to me. And when it came to the part of Jesus Christ, I thought, there's something more. And I'd say, Gloria, what about this? What about this? And she'd open her Bible. She didn't have a concordance. She didn't have a cheat sheet. She just turned to the page, and she'd say, I can tell you what the scriptures say. And I'm like, oh, my God, how do you do that? What? You mean the Bible is maybe like the Word of God? And what kind of an idiot would you be if you didn't want to know what God has to say? And maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but girl, I want to know how to do that. Where'd you learn that? She said, well, I went to school for 4 years. I studied Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic. I said, I want to do that. I said, where'd you do that? She said, in Indiana. I said, I want to do that. She said, well, there's some classes. Yeah. I want to do that. And the next year I was in Indiana doing that. In the workplace, we have an opportunity to meet and to serve. And sometimes we get to think outside of the box. So I got 5 degrees. I didn't set out want to be this educated girl. But what I got instead was a degree in nursing, and I learned how to anticipate and how to serve. And when my first patient who died in my presence took his last breath, I said, whoa, I see his body. We were just talking. Where is he? I said, Gloria, where is he? And when bad things happen to good little girls, and my adoptive mother, who is rich, and my great aunt and uncle, so rich we had a pilot, and I didn't know that everybody else didn't have a pilot. When I asked this little girl, what's your pilot's name? And she said, what? I said, the guy who drives your plane, what's your pilot's name? She says, we don't have a pilot. I said, well, how do you get anywhere? She says, my dad drives us. I said, oh. I was Cinderella. I didn't know that we were rich. I wasn't allowed to use the telephone. I wasn't allowed to see friends, go to friends. I was allowed to work in their many businesses. I was allowed to go to Mass and Communion every day. I was allowed to take piano, dancing, and voice lessons. But I was not allowed to connect with other people. And so when my adoptive mother says to me, we got you out of the gutter. Frankly, that's where you belonged. Do you know what I said to myself? What a terrible thing to say to a little adopted girl. That's just not right. I parented my own self. So my next big job as Cinderella was I learned how to cook and clean. And they had a number of businesses, including a private fishing ranch. And as I'm cleaning fish and cooking fish and catching fish and selling bait to hook them, I learned how to talk to people. And when I was 10 years old, I went to business college because I knew how to play the piano. If you could play the piano, you could type and you could behave, because my parents would beat the crap out of me if I didn't, So you just do what you do. And so I learned to work heartily as unto the Lord. And what was that verse I needed? Somebody's got my verse. Colossians 3, what was it? 23. Colossians, work heartily as unto the Lord and not unto men. Work heartily. So when it came time to go to college, my parents said, well, you could be a nurse or you can stay home and do dishes. And I knew I had a PhD in dishes. I knew how to do dishes. I knew I did not want to do dishes. I wanted to be a doctor, but they had the good sense. I did not have the emotional maturity. And so I figured out when I was, after my first year in nurses training, that you could work as a nurse tech on weekends and I could make enough money to support myself. And they would let you use the phone. You could go out with boys. You had to be home by 10 on weeknights and midnight by the weekend, but that was more freedom than I had had in my entire life. And let's talk about Stockholm Syndrome. I was a captive Cinderella in my parents' home. And when they said, we're writing you out of the will if you continue to do this. Oh, what, you mean live free? I said, I don't care about your money. I care about my life. But here was one of the great things that happened to me when I was working in my parents' businesses, which included a restaurant. And when we weren't busy, I could sit and read. Couldn't use the phone, but I could sit and read. I could talk to customers. And I read Ladies' Home Journal, and it had this article called, Can This Marriage Be Saved? And it talked about men who beat women. And it said that men who beat women do two things. They either kill them or they kill their spirit. And the thing that you do when a man beats you, when he touches you inappropriately, you leave. You get the heck out of Dodge fast. And so one night when I was with my business partner, my live-in boyfriend, we owned an executive search firm because nurses didn't make any money then. And my son's dad had come home from Vietnam with PTSD and left the house one day when our boy was 6 months old. And he said, I'll see you later, honey. And I never saw him again. And I'm making $7,200 a year as a nurse. And I realized I had to do something different. I had to make a shift. So I found myself working in an executive search firm with my boyfriend, who was also a Vietnam vet, also with PTSD. And one night he lost his mind, and I was his victim. But I had read that article when I was working in my parents' restaurant that said what you do when a man hurts you, and I knew exactly what to do. I packed my kid, the cat, in a suitcase in my car, and as I'm pulling out, my boyfriend says, oh, by the way, all the assets are in my name, and all the liabilities are in yours. And I said, I don't care. I have my life and my kid. That's all that matters. So I made a trip to Western Union, the old days, called up Grandma and Grandpa, can you wire me $500? I'm in some trouble. Asked some friends, can I stay with you? And I called a local executive search firm. And I said, here's the deal. I've got 3 degrees, nursing, psychology, performing arts. I need to work in a business capacity. I need to make more than the $7,200 a year that nurses got paid at that time. And she said, yeah, I got a great job for you. She said, we have a PhD in high performance motivational psychology who has a International Society for Advanced Education, and he does continuing ed for physicians in exotic vacation places, and they've just started in Cancun, just been opened up as a tourist spot, only 3 hotels. He's looking for the vice president of the International Society for Advanced Education, and his name was Dr. Dennis Waitley, high performance, highly published motivational psychologist who taught me the law of believing. He taught me how to visualize. At the workplace, miracles happen. We have to think outside of the box. And when we have tragedy, we have to learn how to turn them into triumphs. So I'm like 24, 25 years old. I'm working for Dr. Waitley. I'm learning. I'm working with men like Jonas Salk, Hans Selye, who did the original research on stress, the Mansour Foundation, who was doing research on MS. I'm working with world-class minds, and I am a broken girl. I'm a little less broken today, not as broken as I was last week, last month, or last year, but we're all broken people. And what we have to find is an SOP, a standard, our standard operating procedure. What do we do when tragedy hits? Because nobody gets away scot-free. We're all dealt baggage that we have to deal with. We have to recognize what it is, and we have to say, what am I going to do about this? And if I had not met Gloria Zaglou Olivier, who taught me how to open the scriptures, who taught me how to find answers to challenges, I think I probably would have made a lot of wrong choices. What I have learned, I have 3 children. What I have learned is that my children, thank you, Jackie, my children have taught me everything I need to know because I refused to become the parents that I was given, either biologically or through the law. I refused to be them. And I determined that I was going to never let my children drag me down to a low level where their emotions ruled. And I would always elevate myself and my position and my response according to an example that I thought was worth imitating. And they required that I grow patience and determination and goodness and kindness. And I had the word to direct my steps. Gloria showed up just when I needed it. And it wasn't because I was living with my Jewish boyfriend and I needed a housekeeper. It was I needed someone who was going to keep my house, my dwelling place. I needed God's words who answered my longings so that when my boy and then my girls began to grow and they had questions, I would say to them, you know what, God gave us free will. You do not have to believe or think the way I do. I'm just going to tell you the best of my thinking, and I don't have a monopoly on truth. I don't know it all. This is the best of what I've done. So 40 years ago, when I met Gloria Zaglul, she set me up for success. So when Loretta says, and you're losing your peace over an overpriced house? Really, DiAnne? I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay, so, Nancy, where am I?
Car accident.
So, I realize I'm working in New York City, and I'm making a boatload of money. I've invested well. I bought one of the properties, just sold for $1.75 million. I don't still own it. And when I realized I make all this money, but I don't make a difference, and I met Gloria, and she changed my life, I realized I have to make a difference. It doesn't matter how much money I make if I don't make a difference. I have to make a difference. And I have to do something that matters. So I made a complete financial shift from exceedingly abundantly above anything anybody would need or want to living slightly above poverty. You know, ministers don't make a lot of money. Most of us don't make a lot of money. But it was okay because I had work that was so meaningful and I loved it. And I did that for many decades. And then there was a tragedy in my family. And then one day I lost my spouse, my job, my income, and my faith community in 2007. And I have not been with the fellowship of these believers since. You are my first time back in the gathering together. And I had a little PTSD about coming here because, you know, when you've been held captive, you're a little guarded. So thank you for your patience with me as I heal. So I'm 59 and a half years old. I've got 2 teenage daughters getting ready to go to college, and I have no money. I have no money. And I'm like, oh, Lord, what am I going to do? And so I brought with me a prop, evidence. In 2007, a new chapter. And I wrote in it every day, what are the facts? What does the word say? And what is my plan for today? And this is what I wrote one day, Psalm 39:13. Oh, look away from me and spare me that I may recover cheerfulness and encouraging strength and know gladness before I go and am no more. Oh, Lord, recover me. And did you know that girls are expensive? Good Lord, they want cars, and that means insurance, and then it goes way up because, of course, they wreck every car they get the first time. You know, the first time we hit snow in Ohio, oh, Lord, it's not pretty. And cell phone, and they want prom dresses, and I had not found the no word yet. I learned later, you can say, oh, darling, I love that idea. That is a beautiful dress. It's not in my budget, but let's figure out how you could do that. I had to learn, but I didn't learn that until much later. I tell my clients, I'm a financial advisor now, I tell my clients, are we going to fund, which of our children are we going to go live with when we've run out of money? And do you really, I mean, I know they love you, you love them, but do you really want to live with your children? I love them, but I'm a little independent. So some friends of mine called me up, former ministers with the same organization said, you know, Edward Jones is a great firm. It's got a great ethic and integrity, and you would be a great match for their culture. I thought, financial advisor, that was never on my radar. I had a degree in nursing, psychology, performing arts, theology. And by then I had a master's in business. And I'm like, you want me to be a car salesman or an insurance? Well, financial advisor? Are you kidding me? But I'm 59 and a half years old. I've got really serious needs. I've got 2 girls getting ready to go to college, and I have no money. And I knew that they would not put me out to pasture when I turned 65. And rumor had it that I could run my practice any way I wanted, and my Bible could be in my bookcase and nobody would shoot me. And I said, okay, this just scares me to death, but I'm going to do this. And for the first 2 years, I cried every day. I was terrified that what happened, my ancient script, it always comes back to your ancient script, abandonment, that what happened to me would happen to them, and I would leave them in the lurch in some way, and that spoke to me on such a profound level. I could not stand it. So I just cried every day because I was terrified. And one day I said, girl, you say you love God. You say he's your father. You say, and I've been old and now I'm young, yet I've not seen the righteous forsaken nor his seed begging. You say that. Why are you crying? Do you think you honor God or yourself? Are you dishonoring anybody in this daily ritual of crying? What are you doing? And I made up my mind to do a 2-degree paradigm shift. I am not going to focus on me and my fear. I'm going to focus on whoever I have the privilege to sit alongside of. And in that moment, my life changed. I have nothing to be afraid of. I'm sitting alongside of you. How can I help you? What can I do for you today? How can I help you? I had no more fear. And you know what? 13 years later, let me tell you, I'm going to brag. My arm's a little. I'm going to brag. 13 years later, I put 2 girls through college. They're not cheap. I bought, furnished, and paid for a house. I put enough money away to retire if I wanted to. And I make a difference in people's lives every day, and I'm a partner in the firm, and I serve in many volunteer capacities. I make a difference, and I make enough money to do what is important to me. So I'm not quite into the second year where I stopped crying. I'm still in the crying season. And I'm on a volunteer board at a nursing home out on a country road in the country, and it's for a 7 o'clock breakfast board meeting, right? You know those. And I'm waiting patiently. It's a country road, and I'm at a stop. I am fully stopped, and I want to make a left-hand turn into this nursing home out in the country. And I'm waiting, and all of a sudden I said, oh my God, the sky has fallen. I'm sure I was Chicken Little. The sky has fallen. It was so loud. When a truck rear-ended me going 65 miles an hour, and he hit me twice, and my face went through the steering wheel, and I broke my nose, my jaw in 3 places. My beautiful straight front teeth were hanging by threads. My neck, my back, and my shoulder weren't broken, but I had to give myself traction, and I was in therapy for quite a while after that. And it was awful. And I was still in the crying phase. And this was on a Monday morning. Tuesday, I called a female chiropractor that I had met that summer, and I said, I think I need your help. And by then, my car was totaled. The insurance company got me a rental or something, and I drive out to her, and I see her 3 or 4 times a week for months. And she restored me. My jaw was wired. It wasn't pretty. And then years later, she sold her practice to another chiropractor who became my chiropractor. And he was part of my healing process. And I said to him, you have restored me. I want to help you. I realize you probably already have a financial advisor, but I want to be on your team. Would you be willing to meet with me for 30 minutes in my office? Sure. So he makes $1 bazillion and he doesn't have any life insurance, and his wife and small children are basically utterly dependent upon him, and they're all kind of young. And I said, dude, what's wrong with you? We got to get some. He said, DiAnne, I feel like I'm betting against myself. I'm a faith-based guy. I said, yeah, me too. And do you know who is the author of death? And do we beat him every time? The devil hates you. You're on his list. He comes to steal and to kill and to destroy. You've heard that verse before, right? Yeah. I said, dude, you're getting insurance and I don't care if you like it or not. Okay. And then about 2 years ago, he got brain cancer. And it was quick and it was fast and it was serious. And he had a tumor on his pituitary gland. And the woman who started the practice came and ran his practice, stayed at my house, ran his practice for free while he was in recovery. And this is how we take care of each other in the workplace. And every time I see him, and he's fully recovered, he's back to work, he's doing what he does, but every time, and I see him once a month, whether I need it or not. You know, if you keep your spinal column in alignment, it helps your immune system. If you help your immune system, you're not likely to get so sick. It's a good thing to do. I love it. I don't care what you do. You do whatever you want. I tell my clients, I'm a faith-based woman. You don't have to be, but you have to be kind and you have to be safe. And if you lie to me, I'll fire you. Because one guy lied to me, and we almost lost his money, got caught up in a romance internet scam. It wasn't pretty. He lied to me. But we got to the bottom of it before he lost everything. He lost 25 grand, but he didn't lose the remaining 100,000 because I know my clients. And when I said, thank God, I said, the only reason you lost that was you lied to me. He said, but DiAnne, I thought this was from God. She said she was a God woman. I said, she lied. If you had told me what it was, instead of lying and saying it was for something else, we could have preserved that. So if you ever lie to me again, you know what's going to happen, right? He says, yes, ma'am, you will fire me. Okay, so I have this car accident, right? And I get my teeth put back in place and, you know, and I'm fine and life goes on and life is good. And I realized that there was a standard operating practice for me of what I do when adversity hits, because I wasn't a newbie to adversity. And I'll bet you guys are not newbies to adversity. I know many of you, your courage, I know your history, I know your story, I know some of what you've been through, but I bet I don't know all of it. And I realized the process for me was the same as it is when I have a new client come in, I say, how can I help you and how did you get here today? Well, so-and-so said you were awesome at what you did and I really like so-and-so and I wanted to meet you. I said, okay, tell me how I can help you. What do you want us to do today? And then we talk about all of their stuff. I said, well, you need to know I run a holistic practice. And they said, what's that? I said, I got 5 degrees. I know too much. And I'm going to ask you a million questions. And they're all going to be personal. And they're all going to stay right here. And here's the Kleenex. Here's the wastebasket. Help yourself. But you're going to tell me the truth because I'll fire you if you don't. And when you come in and you say, and I say, how are you? And you say, I'm fine. And I say, bullshit. No, you're not. Tell me the truth. Talk to me. The door's closed. It doesn't go outside of here. This is, lockbox. You're going to tell me. And they tell me. And then we get to the truth of what's really going on in their life, because it's not just about making money. It's about making a life. What do you want to do between the first breath and the last breath? What do you want to do? Where do you want to make a difference? And when I get them to think about, and here's one thing I want you to think about, how long do you want to live? I asked a client one time, how long do you think you're going to live? She was 60 years old. Her husband was 60. They'd adopted 2 little girls from China, and they were 10. She said, I'm not going to live more than 10 years. I said, really? Why? Well, a doctor told me. I said, whoa. Are you telling me that when these 2 girls are 16, you're going to leave this man to raise? Are you mad at him or what? She said, well, I said, do you want to die in 10 years? She says, well, no. I said, well, then why are you saying, well, I bought into the white coat, didn't I? I said, yes, you did. Stop saying it if you don't want it. We have to think outside of the box, and we have to be our true, authentic, genuine selves, and we bring everything that we have to the table. And when I brag about it, I went to rodeo school, and I went bull riding, and I got kicked on my ass because I thought, I did say that word, I'm sorry. I have a potty mouth. My clients know it. I try to behave. Yeah, that's my truth. Love me or leave me, I don't care. Yeah, so let's talk about love for a minute. Love is not a barter system. Love is not I love you because. Love is I love you. You don't have to love me back. I love you because I see something that is lovable in you. So on my clients' birthdays and anniversaries, I pray that they're not there so I can leave them a voicemail, because they save it and they listen to it over and over again. And when they die and I go to their funerals and their kids say, oh, my dad loved you, my mom loved you, they played your voicemails over and over. Sometimes I will sing to them, and I don't sing all that well, but I will always tell them why I love them today. We have a privilege to tell people why we love them. But if we don't keep, and we're going to go back to the SOPs, the SOP is when tragedy hits, you have to write the facts. So where are you? Where do you want to be? What do you need to happen? So the SOP is, what are the facts? But don't stay in the emotion of the facts. You can't cry for 2 years and expect anything good to happen. It doesn't work like that. You embrace it. It's scary. My daughter-in-law was diagnosed with cancer. I spent 2 days facing what it would be if she died, and then I moved on. And what are we going to do to keep her alive? So we focus on what is it that we want to happen. So I want you to focus on how long do you want to live and how long do you think you'll live, and get them to line up, because I don't want you to have to go get a job as a Walmart greeter when you ran out of money because we didn't plan properly. You can be a Walmart greeter if you want to, but I don't want you to have to if you don't want to. So decide how long you want to live. All right, so we go back to the SOP. Tragedy is hit. You make a list of the truth, the facts. What are the facts? You make a list of what are the options. And please make a list of the scriptures that relate to your situation and plaster them everywhere. And if you have to write them every day until they have sunk deep into your heart, until you are convinced about them, until you can meditate on the truth and the veracity of what God promises, because he says that when his word goes out, it never comes back devoid of power. It always accomplishes that which God says it will. And do you know my Bible's on my bookcase, and most of my clients are faith-based, and do you know every day there is church in my office? We are the church. I don't belong to an organization. I don't go to a building, but I have fellowship with my tribe of people, because the thing that is most important to me is the relationship. I don't really care about your money. I have clients who have $1 bazillion. I have clients who have no money. I do tons of pro bono work because I love helping people learn how to own their money instead of their money owning them. And many of us come from many different backgrounds. What I know is that if I don't have enough money on the side, if something comes up, I'd have to borrow it. And when I was a young mother, there were no credit cards. I couldn't borrow anything. And if I couldn't feed my son, and I put him at risk at being in a nursing home, or at nursing home, yeah, it felt like it. At a foster home, it's like it. This last year was like prison for these people in nursing homes. But anyway, so the point is, you have to have a process for when tragedy hits so that you can turn it into a triumph, because the truth is sometimes doors close so that better doors can open. And when you recognize that God has been faithful every time to deliver you, he has never left you in the lurch. It is not fun. It is not pleasant. It is not fun. It is horrible, and you feel like crying, but it is counterproductive. You have to have something that cheers your heart. And then as you begin to see how God has worked in your situation, how God has worked his workplace. We are his workplace. When you begin to see how God has provided for you, you learn the importance of marking the moments that mattered. So this is what I do. I have a little blank book, and every day I handwrite my digital calendar for the week. Every Sunday morning I handwrite it. And then every morning I handwrite for the day, and I take it on a piece of paper with me. And then every day I look back at the day before. Who did I get to see? What did I get to do? Where were the moments that mattered? And I fill my heart with so much gratitude. I am overflowing with joy. And then I bring to my workplace this incredible energy. And people need it. They are hungry for your joy. They are hungry for your positive. They are hungry for your realness. They are hungry for you to be authentic with them. I don't care if you work for money. I don't care if you're retired. I don't care where you show up to volunteer. I don't care what you do. But do it as unto the Lord and not unto men, because we are just between the dashes of the first breath and the last breath. We are between the dashes. You know what we're doing? We're making a difference, and we are representing our Father. And we can love people without conditions. We do not care what they believe. We care that we love them, and we seek occasions to celebrate anyone and everyone. And so when we recognize, I love you today because you touched me, you helped me, you embraced me, you got me off my broken tailbone and I got healed. You made a difference to me. When you get to make enough money to do what's important to you, and you get to make a difference, and when you tap into your unique gifts, and here's where we're going to wrap it up. I go to see my son who lives in Seattle. He is a highly published war correspondent for the Department of Defense. He hands me a book one day, and I said, what's this? He says, it's a book that you should have written. And he gets his nose right to mine, and he says, Mom, when are you going to write your book? I said, I don't know. I got a week off in August. Can I write it then? He says, I don't know. Can you write a book in a week? I said, well, I got a week then. And if I don't do it then, I'll never do it. So yeah, I'll write a book in a week. 5 books later, none published, but 5 books later, I have found my unique giftedness. I love words. And I love encouraging and inspiring and celebrating, never condemning, never complaining, never whiny wuss. That's not pretty. And we girls like to be pretty, and we should get an extra week off a year, but a month. The red tent. We'll talk about that another time. My point is, wherever you are, and you are doing something for someone else, that is your workplace. Wherever you are and tragedy hits, you got to have an SOP for how you're going to deal with it and expect that you're going to turn your tragedy into triumph. Love is not a barter system. You don't love someone because they love you back. You love them because you have the freedom to recognize what is lovable in them, and you have the privilege to share it with them. And now I need a volunteer to stand up, somebody who is bold and unafraid. You. And I would like you to close us in prayer.
I would love to, Father. Thank you so much for what you have given us. Thank you for DiAnne and that she came to be with us today so she could impart to us your heart for our lives on a daily basis. So thank you, God, for the strength that you've given us, the roadmap with the SOP that you've given us so that we can minister on a daily basis with everything that we have in our heart. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thanks, babe.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. You're wonderful.
We're going to sing a song that I'm sure you're all very familiar with. It is Just As I Am, and it's a mix of 2 songs, Oh Come to the Altar and Just As I Am. So I hope you enjoy. Just as I am, without one plea, but that thy blood was shed for me, and that thou bidst me come to thee, O Lamb of God, I come, I come. Are you hurting and broken within, overwhelmed by the weight of your sin? Jesus is calling. Have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Leave behind your regrets and mistakes. Come today, there's no reason to wait. Jesus is calling. Bring your sorrows and trade them for joy. From the ashes a new life is born. Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Oh, what a Savior.
precious blood of Jesus Christ. Just as I am and waiting not to rid myself of one dark blot, to thee whose blood can